Hi guys, and in this episode I'm going to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I know I'm a bit late for this, but I thought this would make a great first review for the channel. So, did I like this film? Definitely. This film is just a great fun time at the cinema, with a lot of comedy and a surprising amount of heart. I'll be the first to admit this wasn't as good as the first one, but this is definitely worth the price of admission. So, let's get on with it. Character-wise, there is a lot of good. Star-Lord gets lots to do in this film, and Chris Pratt is as funny as ever. Rocket gets a lot of good action and comedy, plus we get a little character development. I enjoyed the character of Nebula, but that's probably because I'm a Doctor Who fan. However, the two standouts to me are Drax, who gets most of my laughs and was used much better than in the first film, and Yondu, who got an awesome action scene and gave a lot of both heartfelt and comedic lines. I only have some character problems. Firstly, when she's on screen, she's great, but we don't see much of Gamora in this film, which is a huge shame. Also, while the character of Mantis was fine, she wasn't great and felt a little Drax-marked too, although she didn't have a major role anyway. Finally, and don't dislike me for saying this, but I wasn't a massive Baby Groot fan. I agree, he's very cute, and the opening number with him was very well directed, but Groot might have been the coolest character in the original Guardians. To have some elements of the plot revolve around making him useful, which didn't quite work for me. The villains were also up to the usual Marvel standard. Aisha's actually one of my least favourite Marvel movie villains to date, with no real motivations or engagement. Taserface was good though, with some funny lines and some actual motivation. However, he ends up playing a secondary villain to Aisha and the Sovereign, which is a shame. Of course, a big element of both films was the soundtrack, so did this disappoint? No, this soundtrack is another great job by James Gunn. Highlights include The Chain, Mr. Blue Sky and Lakeshore Drive, but all songs felt right at home here. My only complaint is, although Fox on the Run is on a lot of the promotional material and the actual soundtrack, it doesn't appear in the final cut, which is a shame because it might have been my favourite song in the film, as it was my favourite in the soundtrack. The action was very impressive here. One scene in particular involving Yondu was so fun and creative, it was probably one of my most favourite Marvel action scenes to date. A lot of space battles very visually entertaining, however the end fight scene wasn't brilliant as it lacked much of a fight. These films are also known just as much for their comedy as their superhero elements, and this is very funny. In fact, I'd say that this is funnier than the first film. A film I thoroughly enjoyed earlier this year was the Lego Batman movie. This felt very similar to that, in the fact there are a lot of jokes and Easter eggs constantly being fired at you. I would say that about 90% of the humour landed for me, but there were so many jokes I was laughing a lot of the time. Otherwise, I have a few problems with this film, one of which is pacing. We had quite a fast-paced first act with a very slow second act, and then speeding up again for the final act, which made for a very inconsistent pace. Secondly, the tone was very variable. For example, we get a hilarious scene, followed by a quite dark scene, which seemed very inconsistent. However, my main complaint about the film is the background CGI. I mean, a lot of this film is CG, for example about 90% of the backgrounds. There were some great visuals here, but some didn't look great, and just reminded me I was looking at a graphic. Overall, this is not a perfect movie, but however, it's very entertaining and a funny story with your favourite characters continuing their journey. It's definitely worth the admission price, especially if you're a Marvel or Guardians fan. Now, I'm going to break down a couple of spoilers, so if you haven't seen it yet, click off now. Okay, first off, the death of Yondu. I thought this was done perfectly. I mean, we have this theme of fatherhood throughout, with Ego being Star-Lord's real dad, but actually, Yondu has been his true dad, so his sacrifice at the end is very moving and perfectly written and directed. Secondly, Ego being the actual main villain. This was cool, but it was still a bland Marvel villain, with the motivations unclear. I also wasn't too engaged with the end, as Ego just seemed to go completely psycho. However, live-action Kurt Russell did a good job. Thirdly, I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. Absolutely amazing line, maybe the funniest and best Marvel quotes to date. Finally, this is the stage where I'll talk about post-credit scenes, but I'm going to do a video on them soon because I think they deserve a longer breakdown. So, that was my opinion, but what's yours? Write it in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for some great future content.